All right, so we're just going to get started here with the lecture on figurative language. Here are the terms that I'm going to ask you to master, and we'll just go through it bit by bit. So, first of all, figurative language is language that cannot be taken literally, or at least it should not be taken only literally. This means that there is this implied meaning, usually through a comparison between unlike things. Simile, metaphor, and personification are the most basic examples of figurative language, and frankly, you should have already mastered them at this point. You probably have. Here's an example of one. She is like a sorcerer. This is a simile because we are comparing a person to an unlike person, a sorcerer, with the word like. These are unlike because sorcerers do spells and she is in the kitchen, so these are not the same thing. Here's another one. This is a metaphor. Don't feed the trolls. Here we compare a person to a troll. A person is not a troll. It is an unlike thing, but we mean that they are like a troll because they are, unpleasant. Next up, we got the SAT mocked me. This is personification. The SAT is not a person, so giving it the characteristics of a person, like using the word mocked, is an example of figurative language, of personification. We're giving it human characteristics. Next. In all figures of speeches, no matter what, there is always a literal term and a figurative term. So that's a key vocabulary insight here. Literal term, figurative term. The literal term is always a noun, and it's the person, place, thing, or idea that is literally meant. That is, it is the real thing that exists. It's not the fake or unreal thing that you're comparing the real thing to. So in the metaphor, this coffee shop is an icebox. You are probably remarking that the coffee shop is very cold, but it is not literally an icebox. It is, however, literally a coffee shop. So the literal term is the thing that is real in the comparison. Here's another one. She's happy as a clam. Here we are comparing the woman, she, to a clam, which I guess are happy for some reason. It's idiomatic. I can't explain it. I'm sorry. But there are no real clams in this comparison. But there is a she. There is a person. Here's another one. I move fast, like a cheetah on the Serengeti. So we are just comparing the cheetah, which is not a real thing, with I. I and the way I move is a real thing that we're talking about. The cheetah is only used as a figure of comparison. So it is a figurative term. So the literal term is always the literal thing that is meant, that is real in the sentence. The figurative term, however, is the person, place, thing, or idea that is not literally meant. It is used as the comparative noun in order to bring out some understanding about the literal term. So there is no actual icebox, there is no actual clam, there is no actual cheetah. We are using these ideas and concepts to describe the literal thing. Moving on. So here is a little checking for understanding question. What is the difference between a figurative and a literal term? Please define it to your neighbor. Pause the video, and then we'll check for understanding. Okay, so let's go into each one of these a little bit more deeply. A simile compares unlike things, but it has to use comparative language. Here are some comparative words that you'll see in similes: like, as, resembles, than, similar to, seems. A simile is a figurative comparison that makes the comparison obvious. Your words are like daggers. We use the word like, that makes this a simile. She walks like a summer's breeze, okay? There is no actual summer's breeze. We are just using the concept of a summer's breeze to describe the way she walks, and we use a comparative word like. So here's a key note, and this is the one mistake you'll make with similes. A simile must compare unlike things. It has to be unlike things. Okay, it has to be unlike things. You cannot make a literal comparison. There must be a figurative or a not real, exaggerated comparison. Here, these are not similes. She looks like her mother. So oftentimes, children have a genetic resemblance to their parents. So this is a literal comparison. There is a real mother, and the way that she looks is really, literally like her mother. Another one, their burritos taste like Taco Bell. Well, Taco Bell literally makes burritos, and it is possible for another restaurant that makes burritos to make burritos in the fashion of Taco Bell. So this is a literal comparison. All right. It's not like words and daggers, which are not at all alike, or the way people walk in breezes of the summer, which is a fanciful comparison. This is literal. Next up, the frog is as big as a baseball. Like that might be a literal comparison. We're saying that the size of the frog is like literally as big as a literal baseball. All right, a metaphor is similar. It's like a simile, except there is no comparative language. So your presentation was gold. We didn't say it was like gold. We said it was gold. You're so cool, and life is but a walking shadow. All right, personification is a metaphor. It is a subtype of metaphor. In this, the figurative term is always a person, and the language gives us an idea of the literal term being like a person. Okay, so the flowers danced in the gentle breeze. So the word danced is something people do, and flowers aren't people, but we're saying that they are people because they can dance. So this is personification. Look at my car; she's a beauty, isn't she? Referring to ships and boats and cars as females is some sort of tradition that is personification. Time and tide wait for none. Well, only people do waiting. That's a thing people do, and time is not something that can wait. Metaphors that compare. Be careful though. Metaphors that compare objects to or people to animals are not instances of personification. So if you say something like the test has sharp claws, generally, I know it's like technically possible for a person to have claws, but when you hear hooves, you don't think zebras, right? You think horses. So like claws, generally we don't associate that term with people. It's not impossible to, but most people hear claws and they think of an animal. So this is probably not personification, definitely isn't. And if it is, it's very bad personification. This is turning something into an animal. The car growled as the man hit the gas. Okay, I know pedantics. Yeah, people can growl too, but generally the word growl is not associated with human beings. It is associated with animals. All right, so here is another checking for understanding. What is the difference between simile, metaphor, and the subclass metaphor personification? Talk to your neighbor and pause the video. Okay, moving on. Apostrophe. So there is a punctuation mark called an apostrophe, but that's not what we're talking about here. Apostrophe is related to metaphor because you're making a comparison between something that isn't alive to something that is alive. So it's like a personification. Literary apostrophe occurs when the narrator, the speaker, a character, anybody addresses someone absent or dead or something non human as if that person or thing were present and alive and could reply to what is being said. So if you're talking to a statue, as if it's like a real person that could reply to you, that would be apostrophe. If you start talking to the painting of George Washington and ask him for inspiration, that would be apostrophe. Heck, if you picked a flower and you say, "Flower, tell me the future. Why are you so beautiful?" You start like writing poems where you're addressing flowers. That's all apostrophe. So literary apostrophe is where you talk to something as if it were a person. Here's an example of a poem that is literary apostrophe. Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor hung aloft at night and watching with eternal its part, blah, blah, blah. Notice how it says, bright star, would I were, which means I wish I were steadfast as you are. So this poem is addressed to a star. A star cannot be spoken to in a literal fashion. So we are kind of treating a star like a person. So it's kind of like a metaphor or personification in a lot of ways. But we don't have to just talk to inanimate objects. We could also talk to like historical characters. I could start a poem instead of bright star. It could be like, Abraham Lincoln, we could really use your wisdom to keep the Union together today. Not going to get any more political than that. So like that would be an apostrophe too, because like Abraham Lincoln's totally dead and he's like not going to come back from the grave and like fix America. But we could still write a poem that sort of wishes that he was here to fix America, which of course doesn't need fixing. Here's some questions about that poem, but we're going to skip that. All right, so here's the last little checking for understanding in today's video. What is the difference between poetic apostrophe and the grammatical / punctuation apostrophe, which hopefully you already know what that is.